Yesterday was a typical day in crypto. I make a video talking about how boring Bitcoin has been the last 2 weeks, and then boom, Bitcoin hits hyperdrive. Bitcoin popped off 10% yesterday before falling back down slightly. Then today, as I finished up this script, price of Bitcoin had an epic dump. So what gives? Where is Bitcoin going and why is it acting crazy? I'm going to tell you why today. Let's get it. Welcome to BitBoyCrypto. If you would like daily crypto videos, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you want to learn more about crypto or trading, then please make sure to join one or both of my Telegram chats, the Bit Squad or Bit Squad Traders. All right, guys, today we're going to be taking a look at exactly why Bitcoin took off yesterday and why it had an epic dump today. Some news broke yesterday regarding Donald Trump, the military, and the George Floyd riots. And while many people believe that outright chaos is the key to Bitcoin adoption, at least the price seems to like order. And as the country is reopening from the pandemic, hopefully we'll see a lot more order restored. But the Bitcoin price yesterday tore through the $10,000 level before hitting a bump in the road at $10,400. We've now broken above the previous 10K resistance. Obviously, we now know we could not hold that. But what is important is that Bitcoin broke above a key resistance level and was showing some strength. I've been telling you guys ever since the halving that I was not going to be confident in Bitcoin until it was able to make a higher high on the daily chart. And despite the fact that the price has gone down, we did see a daily close that was a higher high, and that is very important. The goal here, though, would be to turn 10K into support and start bouncing above that level instead of below it. So unfortunately, that did not happen. Regardless of what happened today, Bitcoin has done incredibly well over the last few months since the crash in March. But this 10K level has been such a stingy one, and it's still proving that way. Many people have been selling their BTC at that mark in anticipation for a drop. But what we saw yesterday is that people didn't do that. The price continued to surge. This is supported by the news we shared on yesterday's video regarding Glassnode's research into the fact people are moving their Bitcoin off exchanges and onto private wallets. You can't sell your Bitcoin without having your crypto on an exchange. Well, of course, other than whale OTC selling, which is what we just saw. The point is, the more Bitcoin people have in a secure HODL basket, the easier it's going to be to blow through resistance levels. So what are the major resistance levels above 10K that we can start looking at now we've made a higher high? Well, we just hit one at 10,400. If you look back at the February pump, this is where Bitcoin stalled out. Of course, the pandemic was really taking hold in Asia, and most likely, this was when we saw Bitcoin confidence start to fall until the outright crash. But we just hit those same levels of resistance yesterday, so honestly, that's good news. When we zoom out a little further, we see resistance around 11K. We zoom out even further to last year's summer pump, we find key resistance levels around 12.3K, 13.3K, and 14K. Anything above those levels would be unprecedented over the last couple of years. But here's what I will say. If Bitcoin is able to close above 10,400 in the next week or so, we could be off to the races. I believe a scenario does exist where we could be challenging all-time highs in the near future. After the halving, those same stigmas do not exist about the price. Last year, everyone was excited but skeptical about the summer pump. It just felt like it was too early. But we all saw how fast the Bitcoin price increased, and it had no problem blowing through any and all resistance levels at that time. And I'm thinking we could possibly see lightning strike twice if we can recover from this dump. This is why the whales are dumping Bitcoin. They want to keep it at an affordable range. Because once Bitcoin gets off to the races, it may not stop. The Bitcoin stock to flow chart is suggesting a $300,000 Bitcoin. Now look, if we're barely at all-time highs by the end of the year, this might be an outlandish prediction. But if we can rally and get close to all-time highs in the next 2 months or over the summer, now we're talking about all of our dreams coming true. So what is going on here that made Bitcoin pump so hard yesterday? We already established it dumped because whales are trying to pull the price back. But yesterday's pump felt more fundamental and natural than the dump that we saw today. Now, yesterday, none other than the most powerful person in the world, Donald Trump, called for swift action regarding the George Floyd protests. I, like many people, have been absolutely disgusted by what happened to George Floyd. It was a tragedy and a travesty. But violence begets violence, unfortunately. So what we're seeing now is that while many are peacefully protesting, others are taking to the streets with violent actions. They are looting businesses who had nothing to do with these crimes. They're setting fires to not only government property such as police cars, but also to private businesses. Many of those private businesses are even owned by minorities. The point is that this has become chaos. Interestingly enough, many of those people who have been arrested during these riots have been out-of-state travelers into places where they are causing destruction. Technically, that's a federal offense, but during times like this, law enforcement only will arrest the most egregious offenders. When you think about it, Law enforcement is in a tricky spot because they are being targeted for police brutality and abuse of power. So to combat that, they have to take the opposite approach and neglect using force. Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. My goal here is not to take a side, but to explain the situation the cops are finding themselves in. This has resulted in an absolute chaos across inner cities in America. Yesterday, Donald Trump had enough of watching innocent businesses get ransacked. Now, some would argue Black America and the Black Lives Matter movement have had enough of watching innocent black men and women get murdered by police officers, and that's why we find ourselves in this situation as a whole. But the point is, innocent business owners are losing everything right now. Not every business has the financial backing or the proper insurance like a company like Target does in order to withstand a blow like this, especially with this coming right on the heels of the world pandemic and quarantine where many businesses have just reopened. Donald Trump said yesterday that he would organize local police and the National Guard in order to stop these riots if it gets to that point. He would start with basically his front yard, as the protests in Washington, D.C. have hit a fever pitch. Donald Trump is going to be doing everything in his power, which is significant, to remove the protesters from the White House grounds in a display of strength that could be an example to other cities in America of what might happen. Once again, whether you agree or disagree with what is happening, order and structure will be returning at some point to a major city near you. Immediately following these statements from Donald Trump, the price of Bitcoin shot up to its highest numbers in months. This is not a coincidence. With as much as people like to spread an anarchist message all around in regards to cryptocurrency, the truth is that people in general love structure. This is why the March price crash was so significant. There were so many questions about the future of the world due to the disease that people pulled out of Bitcoin. And here's the truth. People may not want to hear this, but we were clearly manipulated by the medical community in regards to the sickness. We won't bother to answer the question of why we were manipulated in this video, but the fact is, we were sold the idea that doctors would have to choose which patients get ventilators. Doctors were going to have to hold the life of your loved ones in their hands as they decided which person would die, like they were King Solomon deciding whether or not to cut a baby in half. And the reality is that never happened in America. Not once. We never ran out of supplies. We were way under projections. So our economy tanked for basically a big nothing burger. Just as America's starting to get its stride back and many states are beginning the reopening process, suddenly we now have more chaos in the streets. And I will tell you that 2020 has been a heck of a year so far. But Donald Trump is not the only person to want to take control back and stop the looting. Famed UFC fighter Jon Jones was actually filmed taking spray paint away from protesters who were vandalizing property. So check out this clip.
Give me the spray can. Give me the spray can.
It's not the way, man.
I ain't doing nothing. Give me the spray can.
Okay, so imagine Jon Jones trying to take something from you and not realizing who he was. I would just like to say that these protesters were extremely lucky that they did not choose to fight or resist. That would have been a terrible day for them. But man, it would have made for much better content. LOL. Ha ha ha. It's so important that we make a distinction here between peaceful protesters and people who are trying to take advantage of this situation to wreak havoc on the world. If you're a member of the Black Lives Matter movement or a protester looking to enact social change, setting things on fire and destroying businesses is not the move. And you should want to separate yourself from these people the same way that Donald Trump supporters should remove themselves from white nationalists. You can't let the most fringe elements of your political affiliation define the conversation for you. Facts are, there are crazy people out there on both sides of the political spectrum. The only question for the vast majority of people who lie somewhere near the middle of that continuum is, are you enabling the most fringe elements of society by your words, actions, or even your vote? And that's a question all people should be asking themselves. But now it's your turn. Do you believe that the price movement for Bitcoin was more natural yesterday or today? Do you think we're more heading towards a pump or more of a dump? Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to smash the like button and hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. BitBoy out.